Okay, so today we're going to have a look at the demographic transition model. It's a useful tool in understanding some of the characteristics that countries will have as they develop. It's important, though, as we approach the model to remember that it is just a model. It's a simplified version of reality. We should be cautious with thinking that the model can explain um, all things with countries as they develop, or that countries fit neatly into each of these 5 stages that we see here. But that said, it's a useful tool, and let's see what it can offer us here. So just a couple of things as we get started. On the left side here of our graph, what we have are birth rates and death rates per 1,000 people in the population per year. So you can see that with these numbers here. And then over to the right side here of our graph, we see the total population of a place, in this case, a country. And here we've got time, so this is country as it progresses through time. We would expect that it would go through the model, through the stages of the model this way. And down below here we see a chart, a table with key characteristics of each of the 5 stages. So let's identify a few things on the model now. So here we've got the birth rate. This blue line, we'll identify this with BR. We've got the death rate here, and the green line, and that's per 1,000 people again in a population per year. And on the red line, we've got the total population. We'll just identify this with a P. Okay, so let's start with stage 1. Uh, in stage 1, we can see that the birth rate, the blue line, is quite high. And we also see in stage 1 that the death rate is quite high with the birth rate. No country in the world today we could say is clearly identified as a stage 1 country. Most countries have moved into stage 2, but we will see isolated pockets within countries where we see stage 1. These could be rainforest, tribal peoples in the Amazon, for example. The population pyramid of a stage 1 country, or place rather, would look a bit like this, with a wide base. And what this means is that we've got lots of children being born, but because of low, uh, low level kind of medical care, pretty low sanitation and nutrition, that kids are dying young, a high infant mortality, and we don't see a lot of people living kind of beyond middle age. In fact, most people dying before they reach that age. Stage 2 is where the demographic transition starts to happen. As we see here, the death rate drops uh, rapidly. We can see this here on our table, a rapid decrease. And that's largely because we see medical technology being brought into these places. We see better health care, better nutrition and sanitation. So these are often quite agricultural societies that kind of moved on from hunting and gathering, and would have kind of some of the beginning of industry in these places. So the population pyramid here would look a bit like this, a bit more developed. Still quite a number of young people, but we see more people living through middle age, and even some people making it into being somewhat elderly. These countries in stage 2 of the model are generally countries in sub-Saharan Africa, some in Southeast Asia. We see many countries in stage 3 of the demographic transition. In stage 3, countries would look a bit more like this with the population pyramid. We see that the birth rate really drops off in stage 3, and that is because we have more family planning programs. We have less people working in agriculture or hunting and gathering, so we don't that the families don't need as many children to work on the farm to help out. So the birth rate drops precipitously here. So we see this on the pyramid kind of narrows in this population pyramid, and all the while the death rate continues to drop. So there's more and more people living um, well into middle age and beyond. Okay, and this takes us into stage 4 of the model, where we see countries like the United States, China, and France that have um, lowered their birth rates and death rates because of, again, family planning and good nutrition, sanitation, to where we see that the population pyramid looks more like a rectangle here. Okay, what we see with the total population is that it's growing. We can see that here. It's growing because there's still a bit of a gap here between the birth rate and the death rate at the end of stage 2 and going into stage 3, going into stage 4. Okay, this gap between the birth rate and the death rate we call the rate of natural increase. Okay, so NI. We can see that still happening here, and that's what's resulting in the population still growing here. Now, a new stage that's been added to the model in the last 20 years is stage 5. And you can see that stage 5 has dotted lines for both its population, its birth rate, and death rate, because we don't really know what is going to happen with these countries. It's such a new phenomenon. But here's what we can detect, is that the birth rate is very low, stayed quite low here, and that the death rate is starting to now actually increase. And it's not increasing because babies are dying, but rather because we've got a lot of old people now in the population. And yeah, old people, I guess, die. So what this means is that the population line here we can see is starting to decrease. All right. So countries in stage 5 of the demographic transition will have a high dependency ratio for elderly people. That is, that there's not going to be so many people in the middle part of this population, younger people, that can support the big numbers of elderly people here. And we can contrast this with the stage 1, where we've got a high youth dependency ratio, where there's loads of young kids, many of them sick, unfortunately, and not so many middle-aged people or older people to take care of them. Okay, so that's a bit of the demographic transition in review. If you have further questions, be in touch.